Time for NuWellness TV with Dr. Lee. Join your host, the accomplished Dr. Cherilyn Lee, as she welcomes the leading experts in health and well-being as they explore the advancements in natural health, physical fitness, nutrition, integrative medicine, and self-discovery. Time for NuWellness TV with...
Good day, everyone, or evening. Again, I always want to thank everyone for tuning in and taking the time out of your busy schedule to tune in to NuWellness TV with yours truly. You know, today is a show that I'm seeing so much of this, and I'm sure a lot of people present to hospitals, and their doctors are telling them, we just don't know what's wrong with you. You have a line of symptoms and nobody can figure it out. This show really is going to go into a lot of detail, and you're going to hear some testimonies of some incredible people that were seriously injured based on what's happening in our environment today. Because what's happening right now is very serious. It's very serious, and we need to do something to get better control. I think each person have the right, and we need to take the time to be more active and what's happening around you, your community, but now this is global. I have a wonderful guest with me today who's going to share his experience, not only his experience, but he is the CEO of a wonderful company to help us to understand what is happening, not even understand, but ways that we can help heal and get past this, because a lot of people are not aware as to why they're so sick. You have symptoms and no idea why you have this strange rash, why you have ringing in the ear, why you can't sleep at night, neurological disorders. There's so many things under this. So I want to thank my guests for being here. Drew Fountain, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Lee, very, very much. You know, I just want to thank you for your interest in this subject. It's a significant issue for workers. It's hiding in plain sight. As you mentioned, the medical community does not diagnose these injuries.
No, they do not.
And so I maybe we should just start there. So my background is in.
Thank you.
I was a former prime contractor building wireless telecommunication sites, and those are the sites that support our cell phones and make our cell phones work. And our demand for everything's wireless has created this proliferation of wireless antennas. And
yes.
In today's date, the norm is for an unsuspecting painter, roofer, electrician, window washer, maintenance person to get near these RF transmitted antennas,
yes, be
overexposed and not know it, and have those symptoms, those cognitive issues and otherwise that you just mentioned. And they go to the doctor and they say, hey, I've got depressed, I've got headaches, I've got moodiness, I'm forgetful, I can't sleep.
And one of the major ones for the women too, and it's so many, they're all major, is having symptoms of like menopause, because it could mimic menopausal symptoms as well. And then they come back and they do all the testing and find out, oh, all the levels are normal. I'm not in premenopause or menopausal symptoms. This is what's happening to them. So I'm gonna let you come.
No, that's a good point. So in 2013, the predominant rating agency for the insurance industry, and a rating agency is like Standards and Fitch, Moody's and Poor, they estimated there's 250,000 of these innocent, unsuspecting workers getting into these RF areas around the antennas and being exposed. They said that the exposure causes eye sterility, cataract sterility, and cognitive injuries, as you mentioned.
Yes.
So they estimated that there's 250,000 of these unsuspecting workers suffering those injuries. So that was 2013. By 2015, the largest insurance market, Lloyd's of London, pulled out of the RF exposure market. You can't buy RF exposure insurance today. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a big issue. A lot of people know about it, but the industry has been slow in adopting solutions to protect these workers. You've got kind of a perfect storm with the federal agency that regulates them, the FCC.
Yes.
They're underfunded. They're understaffed. They can't, because of the proliferation of wireless, we went from 20 or 30,000 wireless sites to over 300,000 commercial and 300,000 governmental sites. So you have over 500,000 wireless sites. It's impossible to manage for the federal government, and their reliance on the licensee to adhere to their rules and regulations hasn't worked because the licensees don't know when workers get near the antennas, the property owners don't know that the antennas are hazardous, and the workers don't know. On my way up here today...
And that's our title, by the way, the crisis of what's happening with the workers.
Yeah.
It's a national crisis
It
that's
absolutely
happening with the workers. So that's our title. I didn't announce that part, but go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
So interesting. I took the Amtrak on the Red Line to get here today, and on the Amtrak I sat next to a gentleman he's a senior project manager for a large construction company. In fact, I think they're one of the prime contractors building the new Rams Stadium.
Okay.
And so he asked me what I do, and I told him, and I said, are you familiar with this? He said, no. And I said, so, but you've had workers on rooftops and near these buildings. He says, oh, yeah, I know that I've seen these things. I know our workers are around it, but we never knew they were bad for you. So that's the problem. And the workers rely on their employer, who's a kind person, a kind employer that cares about their safety. And when they're around them, they think, well, if there was a problem here, my boss or safety person would have told me about this. So it's just a unexpected consequence from the proliferation of wireless, these workers getting around. And there's really no way in today's technology to ensure the workers have the requisite information to protect themselves and have it recorded. And again, that's one of the big reasons why the insurance industry is completely pulled out of this market.
Do they have any devices that a person can wear, like we have x-ray technicians? They can wear devices to know that I've been overexposed. So, the workers, have they developed something for them to wear to know that they've been overexposed to this radiation or from the telephone towers antennas?
Yeah, there's a few things. There's an RF radiation suit you can put on. It's $2,500. Most people don't even know they exist.
$2,500.
You heat up within an hour because they're very well insulated and your body temperature heats up. It's impractical for all these workers to use that. Then there's a device called a pocket protection monitor. It's about the size of these microphones that you would hold up to see if there's the presence of RF. But often those are about $1,500. And the painting contractors, the roofing all these guys, they're not going to buy these widgets for their employees and try to train them and then try to have these things recalibrated. So those are really the only two things, and they're ineffective. The industry uses locks and signs. They use locks to restrict access. But if you just imagine on this rooftop of the building we're in now, there may be a lock at the door. But really that lock is just there to prevent vandals from coming in or to protect whatever assets are there.
Right.
The roofer, the painter, the electrician, whomever is going to be granted access. And if you're the building owner, you say, yeah, go fix that. Yeah, go do that.
Exactly.
You don't know that there's RF radiation that could injure somebody. And this is kind of a systematic, I don't know how to quite describe it, but the wireless carriers, when they do the leases with the building owners, they don't really talk about that. They get the building owner.
No, I've never heard, and I know some people, and I know contractors, and I never heard them say anything about this.
Yeah, so the building owner thinks, gee, I'm going to get $1,000 to $4,000 a rent a month. This is great. It's a space that I didn't even know I could lease, and then the carrier says, we're FCC compliant. Don't worry about it. Everything's fine. There's some kind of hold harmless agreement. So everybody's lulled in this false sense of security.
Oh, yes.
All the while, the carriers don't know when people are coming onto the property owner's property. The property doesn't know that the RF is hazardous. The workers don't know that.
My.
We're talking about a big crisis, and it's not just here in the U.S. Again, you mentioned global. So when the insurers pulled out of the market, one of the executives involved with our company, Roger Egan, ran the largest insurance brokerage firm in the world, Marsh McLennan. And what happened was he went to Lloyd's of London and he says, hey guys, I'm involved with a company that has a technology that can solve this. Why don't you take a look at it, do your due diligence? So they did. And it ended up to where we now can offer RF exposure insurance with our technology on a per-site basis. But in the process of...
So you can't offer insurance?
Yeah, with our
okay.
technology. Yeah, there's a lot of neat benefits, yeah.
And how many? I wonder how many people know that. Do they know?
Not very many.
Yeah, we really need we need to stress that on this show because people need to know there isn't an insurance.
There is an insurance
because
with our
once
technology.
you're ill from this, and especially when it cannot be diagnosed,
correct,
who's going to take care of it? Because I'll share as we go through the show, and I want people please tune in. You're going to hear some testimonies of people with some horrific exposures. They're going to be calling in today to give what happened to them. And you might know someone that have the same symptoms and no one has been able to diagnose them. So I'm really excited about, and I want to thank the callers that are calling in. These are people that you have known to share their experience. I just want to thank you in advance for calling.
And two of them are telecom workers. They work in the industry. They knew RF radiation wasn't good for you, and their companies had abysmal RF safety practices.
Not to call you,
no,
not to stop you, but RF. Can you just explain that a little bit more?
Oh yeah, thank you, Doctor.
Okay.
RF is radio frequency radiation. It's non-ionizing radiation. Unlike nuclear radiation that breaks everything down and causes you big tumors in the side of your head, this is much more insidious. It can cause cognitive injuries, behavioral problems. You can't see it, so you could be overexposed, and you look in the mirror, and you still look like the same Dr. Lee before you were overexposed as to afterwards. You won't know. You have these symptoms, and as you mentioned, you go to the doctor looks in his book, and he says, that reminds me of MS, that reminds me of maybe you have autoimmune.
Exactly.
Maybe. They simply are not trained, and these are well-intended professionals. Doctors are, as you are, wonderful human beings to protect our well-being, but they don't know about it. And they think, gee, well, I've never heard of that. I don't think that that's what it really is. And so you'll hear that today, that what I found with these workers that found us was they told the doctor, here's what happened to me. I was this person before, and now I've got these symptoms, and here's what I was doing, and I know RF is bad. And the doctors...
Well, they probably didn't even know RF, maybe, per se.
The doctors?
Or did the client?
The workers did.
Okay.
Yeah, they knew about the RF radiation. And by the way, just to let you know, a cell phone, there's a lot of controversy on the cell phone. They put out 0.5 watt of RF radiation. The cell site antennas put out from 200 to 1,200 watts.
Oh my goodness.
Your microwave works at, I think, around 800 watts. So imagine just opening that microwave door and sticking your head within 10 or 15 feet for a few seconds, a few minutes. Maybe you're right up next to it. So it's a very hazardous, dangerous substance. The companies that use it rely on it. We all rely on them for our connectivity wirelessly. And the last thing I want to do is give up my iPhone. I need that. That is.
I know, and I'm working with 2 phones, one for business and one for social media. So, kind of going back and forth. But I try to keep them away from my body and keep them on airplane mode as much as I can, and don't put them anywhere. I see Jarvis moves his. And keep it away from your head at night when you sleep. I've had many people having major headaches. Brain tumors, as we know. One of the top doctors at Cedars-Sinai actually came out and started talking about the brain tumors associated with cell phones.
My business partner, I met Johnny Cochran. He was flying from New York to Washington on a puddle jumper. Yes. And he had his phone just stuck to his head from up until we couldn't get reception until as soon as we got close to the runway, it was back on. Oh, my
goodness.
And Johnny passed of a tumor right there.
I know. I knew him. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think John McCain, tumor right
Same
there.
Thing. Yeah.
So you look at these tumors and you look where they're at. And
exactly.
So there is a definite correlation. And that particular tumor, it starts with a G. It's like crabgrass.
Glistoma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like crabgrass. Once it gets started, they're really tough to get out.
Yeah.
And so a lot of research has been done on that tumor and the issue with RF, and that's why there's a fair amount of scientific knowledge on that and other research on how RF causes these behavioral problems. So,
Exactly. You know, I a friend of mine who is a dear friend who's been on the show, not here at the studio, but would give out antenna.com. I think it's antenna.com, where you can put in your zip code and you can find out how many antennas are in a 100-mile radius of your house. And I provide concierge services. And I had this young lady who could not get out of bed. You know, I went into the room and she had lost so much weight, I didn't even know she was still in the bed. The bed was just flat and she was just emaciated and I couldn't believe it. And most of the family just looked very ill. And come to find out, outside of her room was the antenna tower. Then she was across the street from a school who had just put in all those computers, put in all these computers into the school. And she was in such bad shape. And the doctors kept saying, no, she has autoimmune disorder. And I was so glad I had gone there because doing concierge, I really examined the homes as well. I want to see what's going on with the house. And when I'm not licensed to go in and really examine for the magnetic frequencies or the RFs. I don't do that, but I have people who will test that and have seen some really bizarre things happening with people. One lady had a faulty wire over her bed. She kept thinking, I'm losing my mind. Kaiser said, no, well, I shouldn't mention the name, but they said, no, you're not losing your mind. And you have this problem, that problem. And you know, it affects the thyroid a lot too. It really affects the thyroid. So when you're looking at certain things, we have to be very clear as to where is this coming from.
Right.
And I had, unfortunately, this very dear a friend who is known to UBN as Dr. Dennis Watts. He was on the show. He used to work for NASA, and he said there's so many clicks of radiation in the air. And I think it was like 60, Jarvis, I think he said 60, and we're like at 6,000. I mean, it's like a national alert.
Right.
But we wonder why we're walking around with all these problems. And the first thing we want to do is put you on a psychotropic medication because they feel, well, you have a psychological disorder.
Yep.
So, you know, I'm honored for your being here today.
Well, thank you.
And I'm honored for the work that you're doing. I mean,
Thank you
you're
very
an
much.
advocate on
Means
what
a
you're
lot.
doing. And we have a long history. We're going to be doing some work together.
Oh, great.
Because each one teach one. When you don't know what's going on, there is a certain part of the city that has a lot of telephone wires, but guess what? There's a little canal there, water. So it's a conduction going on, and they think like all these kids have ADD and ADHD, and they have a whole slew of medical problems. Well, what's happening in the environment?
Right.
You know, so environment has a lot to do with what's going on, and then you have certain environments you don't see all these telephone wires like you have to. Then you wonder why the crime rate and all these things are happening in certain communities. Or why don't you take a step further to see what's going on in the environment?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're really focused on that electrosensitivity that we have as human beings.
Oh, yes.
And that is thousands of watts less than these antennas. So imagine what it's doing to those workers in those occupational areas near those antennas.
They're close to it. They're close to it.
Do you want to take one of those callers right now?
You know, before we take a caller, I would love to show your interview.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah,
Super.
and then we're going to take, so people can see a little bit more
about it.
Yeah, and then we'll
Great.
take the callers.
Oh, great.
You're wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to show the tape of the interview that you had with
That's with ABC San Diego.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
Team 10 consumer alert tonight. The more we rely on smartphones, the more data we want and the more antennas we need. But at what cost? Workers say they're getting injured working on those antennas, and the constant push for more towers is putting them at risk.
Team 10 troubleshooter Kristen Severin joins us. And Kristen, you talked to a San Diego company with a solution to keeping them safe.
Yeah, there are 600,000 cell phone tower sites in the United States. They're everywhere, on the sides of buildings, streetlights, water tanks. But Team 10 learned thousands of those towers violate federal rules that are supposed to keep workers safe.
It hurts like how.
Benjamin Rivas has worked on cell phone towers for 14 years.
I was dealing with them day in and day out.
He quit after an antenna that should have been powered down was still live.
Physically burned my hand.
The burn is a work injury you can see.
You get burned on the outside, but internally it blisters.
Other problems he said caused by the towers aren't as easy to spot.
Depression, and I get headaches from time to time, and mood swings and stuff.
Revis is one of 250,000 workers a year. An insurance rating agency said gets too close to these antennas. They act as an open microwave and can cause eye damage, sterility, and cognitive damages.
What we're going to go do is I'm going to show you the invisible footprint of these potentially hazardous areas that workers don't see.
Drew Fountain has a $20,000 meter that measures the RF frequencies.
And the amount of power that really comes off a lot of these antennas.
He co-founded RF Check,
Talk about
a San Diego company that tracks where every tower is in the U.S.
there's 22.
An RF frequency over 20% can injure people. Over 100% can burn someone.
We're over the limit for the workers.
Cell phone tower workers, roofers, painters, anyone that comes in contact with the antennas.
I got a 150 reading this morning.
Many tower sites have these signs.
Does anybody even see these?
Signs are dismissed by workers. This doesn't really say anything beyond this point. The law requires that the workers be made aware of these areas before they get near them, and that's not being done today.
Since 1985, the FCC has required workers be made aware of these dangers, but doesn't say how to alert them. The FCC gave notice of a proposed rule change 2 years ago for the cell companies and site owners to figure out the how.
Recognize what these are.
Fountain said that hasn't happened.
Phone providers are looking the other way and not protecting the little guy.
From here to here is the RF danger zone. Fountain wants workers to know about these areas before they show up to any cell phone site. Fountain helped develop RF Check to do just that. The only comprehensive database of every wireless antenna in the nation. They're working with the FCC to get it used across the entire industry. Workers would check the tower sites before any job. RF Check would be paid for like E911. That's the fee we pay for emergency services, so you could see a few cents more on your cell phone bill, but they are still trying to figure out that exact amount. I'm Team 10 troubleshooter Kristen Separate.
Now that you have viewed this or listened to this wonderful tape, and keep in mind, too, if you want to please share this show with your friends and family. And also, you can go to our YouTube channel if you miss it here on UBN here today. Go to our YouTube channel, NuWellness TV with Dr. Lee, and you'll be able to watch the show in its entirety and share it with your friends and family. You know, the workers, I think we should now have the callers call in who have been affected and tell their story, because their story is just horrific.
Amen.
Yes. So our first caller.
Hello, this is Kyle John.
Good day, Kyle. How are you doing?
Could be better.
Yeah, I'm so sorry you had to go through this experience. You know, I'm a believer and very spiritual here, but you know, everything, we hate to say everything happens for a reason. I've been in 2 comas in the past, and I've been able to share, but everything, unfortunately, that happens to us sometimes happens for a reason. I feel that you have a book inside of you that you're going to have to write your whole story and get it going, because people need to see you and follow you along your journey. I do feel that you're going to be healed through this. Unfortunately, you had to have this experience. So can you give me a little background about your story and what happened to you as a worker?
Yeah, thank you. I'm Kyle John, and I'm 27 years old. Been in the telecom industry for about 4 years now. I pretty much climb about 80% of my time on the job working near these antennas. And I was overexposed, and it happened pretty fast. And basically what happened to me was I climbed the tower, I got up there, got eye floaters, I got a headache, I got a dry throat, I felt something growing in my throat, and I let my boss know what was going on. You know, I'm like, hey, I think we're getting exposed up here. Something should be powered down or shut off.
Yes.
And I lost my voice on the tower.
Wow.
And it's been about 3 months since the last incident occurred, and still don't have my voice back.
And you're 27 years old. My goodness, you're so young.
Yeah, I'm only 27, and you can probably hear it in my voice. It's a little graspy.
Yes.
And my major problems are like my headaches,
Yes.
the eye floaters. I got temple pressure, ringing in the ears. I have a tough time sleeping. Pretty much you name it, it's going on. Like I got problems trying to remember, even trying to pronounce words. Sometimes it's difficult. And I've gone to several doctors. They seen me. Like as Drew said, or another worker said, blisters. I had blisters in my throat.
Oh my
I had
goodness.
swollen lymph nodes, vocal fry, and basically the doctor said it was like mucositis, but he couldn't. He doesn't know about radiation that well, and he was an ENT. And mucositis is basically a burn from radio frequency or chemotherapy.
My
And
goodness.
I told him, I'm like, doesn't that make sense to you? You know?
Yes, yes.
And then basically I've been out of work for 3 months now. Can't get the help that I need. The insurances are kind of, they're telling me that my symptoms aren't work related, and
Oh, that's the
and they
saddest part.
yeah, it's horrible. And basically it's changed my life.
No, I
And,
know it has.
Got a kid on the way, and there's really nothing I can do right now besides get lawyers and try to have them fight for me to, get me the treatment that I need.
Right.
Wow.
We're going to talk. We're going to talk off the show because I'm going to get with some other people, and we're going to see if we can try to get you some help. Okay? Because it isn't your fault that this happened to you, and I feel nothing happens by accident. I met Steve through a very dear friend of mine, Robbie Motter, and she said it's someone that you have to meet right away. That was last week, and here you are today. Because I don't believe in putting anything off.
Wow.
So nothing happens by accident. And having you tell your story, I feel that there's going to be something coming. I want you to start journaling everything from beginning to end. I do have some of your notes here on the symptoms that you have, but I want you to start journaling because you have to start a book. And I can tell you right now, a lot of people listening, you can do this for free because I know there's some financial difficulties. It's called createspace.com. I have a friend who I can have her to assist you. If you don't want to write, you can dictate it, and she will type it up for me. She's phenomenal. But within the next couple of months, I want your book ready, and I want you sitting here on this show to discuss what's going on with you, okay?
Amen.
And that's going to help bring you in some funds as well because you're going to sell the book, but you're going to be interviewed not on my show, but on so many others because your story has to be out. A lot of people are listening. We will be sharing the show, but this happened to so many people, and it's unfortunate that your insurance is not picking this up. It really is saddening that a person have to go through this, and you're trying to work and support your family. I'm so sorry you had to go through this, but you're gonna survive this. You're gonna survive this, and we're gonna talk after the show. But right now, I want you to start journaling. If you don't feel like journaling, because I know of forgetting things here and there, let's get your tape recorder where you can start taping it. I have a friend that will get this going. Only thing I want you to focus on is a title, okay? Because it's going to have to be a really good title. But if you can't, you have your dear friend here with you here, Steve, and we're gonna support you through this. Okay, so Steve, you have any questions or something you want to bring out while he's on the phone as well?
To Drew.
Yeah,
no,
to Drew.
Kyle, I'm
Drew,
so
I'm
sorry you went through what you've had to go through, and I'm glad that you found us through the internet, and we are the resident experts on RF and RF safety, and as I've told you, I try to do everything I can to help you. I'm not a doctor, but certainly can tell you about RF exposure and antenna properties and things like that. But I would take Dr. Lee's suggestion, and I know you mentioned you document stuff well. Go to that website and then expect a call from her after the show. And
Most definitely, you will.
Say God bless and have a great afternoon.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
And this is only the beginning, so I want you to know there's hope. So we're going to go with our second caller, and thank you so much, and I'll be speaking to you later today.
Thank you, Kyle.
Okay, next caller.
Hello?
Yes. Next caller.
Chrissy?
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Yep.
Yes, this is Tracy.
Okay, Tracy, thank you so much for calling, Tracy.
Chrissy.
Thank you so much, Christy,
yes.
for taking the time to call and share your experience as well. So if you can, I don't want to say brief because I know it's a journey that you've been on, but if you can kind of share your story with me real quick here, Christy. Thank you so much for calling.
Oh, my husband actually was exposed. He's 31. We've been married for almost 10 years. We have 4 kids. He was on a rooftop site in Atlanta and installing some new equipment. He actually had one of those RF pocket protection monitors with him that you were just talking to Drew about.
Yes. And what symptoms are he's having symptoms of? I have some of your paperwork in front of me, the ringing of the ears, the migraine headaches. And how old is he?
Oh, 31.
And he's very young as well, 31 years old. My goodness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have 4 kids.
How long has he been suffering
He's been
this?
in the industry for 5 years, a little over 5 years.
And how long has he been suffering these symptoms, Chrissy?
14 months. It happened in March of last year.
And he still has yet to get any relevant medical attention to determine the extent of his injuries. Is that crazy or not?
Oh,
That's
my
just
goodness.
not right.
And the crazy thing is he actually has a diagnosis. They diagnosed him with occupational exposure to radiation.
Okay.
And they haven't done anything. They've given him, he has the same symptoms today that he walked into that doctor's office with 14 months ago. And they released him to go back to work fully. They said you have no restrictions. The only thing that they've done so far is give him ketorolac for his migraines. And they attempted to treat his stomach problems, but when I think it was 4 failed attempts with medication combinations, they stopped. The doctor's not even returning our calls.
No. Well, we're going to get to the bottom of this. Like I said, nothing happens by accident, and you're calling for a reason, and we're going to get to the bottom of this as well. So I'm going to be speaking to just about all my guests after the show, along with Drew, and see what we can come up with. We have to come up with some solutions where you need help, like right now.
Great.
We need some help right now, and especially with having a family, and trying to take care of yourself.
And, he actually passed out on the site that he was working on. His supervisor, they gave them a safety parameter that obviously failed him, but he was supposed to be in for 15 minutes, out for 15 minutes. Now we find out that was more than double too long. But he actually passed out on the rooftop in Atlanta. And one of the supervisors.
Well, I'm going to be looking for, I do know 2 medical doctors who are also attorneys. So I'm going to reach out to them as well, and just to see, and if anyone out there who's listening, who's an attorney, who has the background too, is a physician, that would be very helpful. But, I know, like I keep saying, nothing happens by accident, and we will have the right people to pull this together. I know we will. Okay?
And like I was saying, we're 14 months in on this little journey, and we have an attorney. We have a fabulous attorney.
Okay.
We have a doctor who
wonderful
thinks he can help him, but we're having to jump through hoops with workers' comp to be able to see him.
Yeah.
So we're just kind of stuck now. So like I said, he's 14 months in, and he's been given ketorolac and a few stomach medications that haven't worked. He's still suffering.
Yeah. Well, we want to get him past suffering.
For him to be completely healthy.
Right. And like I said, we'll be talking to you, and I'll be talking with you with Drew here. So, and some continuity with his doctor as well, to see if some things that can be helpful, but it's food grade and very simple, not medication, to help him through this whole process so that he can overcome, and have his quality of life back. I don't understand how they let him go back to work or said he is capable of working, not in this condition, but he's been blessed, and God has still spared his life for a reason, and he will continue to spare him, but he has a journey, and there's a reason behind it. We'll get to that as well, okay? But I want to thank you so much for calling.
I appreciate it.
And we're going to take it further. So it's not just you calling to share your story. This is so that we can come up with solutions as well, okay?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Chrissy.
Thank you. So we have another caller. Okay. Caller, we ready?
We're getting
256. 256 area code.
Yep.
Bridget.
Yep.
She's on.
Hi, Bridget. Bridget, can you hear us?
Okay. Bridget, I hope you're feeling well this morning.
Let's do 540.
Okay. We're waiting for another caller.
Hello, this is Dave.
Hello, Dave. How are you doing this morning? Well, it's morning for me. I don't know what state you're calling from.
Yeah. It's morning for you. It's afternoon for me. I'm feeling great.
Oh, wonderful. You sound good. Your voice is nice and strong as well.
Well, you're too sweet. I've been enjoying your show. I've been listening in, and
thank you.
I appreciate your perspective. I appreciate what I've heard Drew have to say.
Yes.
It's a shame to hear about these injuries.
It is.
The curious thing about it is these are two people that we know about, but there are many others out there we probably don't know about. And there are people suffering from RF exposure that don't know why they're suffering.
Exactly. A lot of people, because I picked up some patients myself because I provide concierge service and went to the homes and then brought someone out to actually test the home for the RF, and it was horrible. She had so many symptoms and nobody could figure it out, and I said, you know what, I think I know what it is, so let's just check, and it was correct. Faulty wiring in the house and everything else, and telephone antenna was right across the street, and when I had her go to antenna.com, and she had like over 100 antennas in a 50-mile radius from her house. Can you imagine? It was amazing that she was in her right mind, and she kept feeling like I'm losing my mind. So now this particular person now been diagnosed with breast cancer. She's been diagnosed with breast cancer now, so she's coming along really good with that without a lot of the traditional treatments. So, Drew, do you have... You want to your symptoms as well?
No. Dave's a tower industry safety expert, and he just wanted to share some of your insight that you've been privileged to, Dave, and what you've seen and what you think should happen, and I think that's where he's a well respected tower safety expert.
Oh my goodness!
He's talked to Congress before, the FCC, OSHA. Everybody knows who Dave Anthony is, and Dave this is a very significant problem in Dave's eyes, and he wanted to call in.
Well, I have a very dear friend. I'm not going to mention her name right now, but she wrote the book for OSHA. So I'm going to contact her, and she is a holistic environmental medicine practitioner now. So I'm going to put you in contact with her.
Oh, great.
As well. She's phenomenal. And probably she will have some other things to kind of add to this, especially since she wrote the book for OSHA.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure she want to now rewrite it after all this is happening now. But there's so much that's happening that we want to know. And I want to thank you so much for sharing your expertise. But again, this is why I open the show up with people who have symptoms and nobody can get to the bottom. I know one, the practitioner, she's a doctor herself and a researcher, very respected, came down with a rash and everything else. The rash was horrible, and she just felt like she was losing her mind from all of this until she went through a lot of the research to find out this was the problem. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you so much, Dave. And we need your input because of your background and your qualifications. Thank you so much for sharing what you just shared.
Well,
Thank you.
appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Dave. And let me share a couple other insights. So
Yes.
I mentioned Roger Egan, the head of the largest insurance brokerage firm, former head. He calls this asbestos wasn't asbestos till it was asbestos, and this may be the asbestos. It may be bigger. It may be about the same size, but it's very significant. We also have another executive involved with our company, Dr. Gil Emilio. He's the former CEO of Apple.
Okay.
He dug into this issue, actually brought it into AT&T. He was a board member there at AT&T for 18 and a half years. And I think their head attorney pushed back, and it's my understanding he left their board. This was one of the reasons he left their board, because he felt like that was an irresponsible position to take. And our goal today is to get Jesus to open up the hearts of these CEOs that run these companies. Their average compensation is over $23 million a year. If you compare that to a third-party worker that makes about $20 a year, they make in 4 hours what one of those workers makes in a year.
Oh, my goodness.
And to put the profits on top of the poor guys' backs that are trying to maintain the systems, that are trying to work around them, all the while there's laws in the books that aren't being adhered to.
Yes.
We need to compel them to soften their hearts, open up, and solve this problem. Adopt a technology. Our technology, it was mentioned in the video about us working with the FCC on the exact amount. Our technology utilizes the existing framework already approved by the 1996 Telecommunication Act, which just adds a few cents to everybody's monthly bill. So we, as the consumer, whose demand for all things wireless has really created the problem, pay to protect our brothers and sisters out there working on these sites. So we pay for everything anyway. We pay for pop bottles, oil, battery.
Yes.
So the other part of this is the wireless companies don't even have to pay for it. This is a socially responsible solution. We all chip in. We get this thing solved. So
we're going to have to. There's too many people. You have the workers involved, and then you have the consumer that are affected as well.
Correct.
But the worker, we have to do something with them. That's why they went to work.
That's right.
To take care of their families, to take care of their livelihood, and to have someone as young as in their 20s. You know,
these guys went to work that day to do their job, to provide for the welfare and well-being of their family, and they come home different people. What struck me with Kyle is his mother, wonderful lady Sheila. She described Kyle as, my son went up the tower as my son. Oh. He came down a completely different person. Chrissy's husband, Steve. Same day. And Steve had the same thing.
The same day.
We got to wake up. We got to help these people. And that's what being a former prime contractor, I couldn't protect my workers. And that was the genesis of developing the National Antenna and Tower Safety Center. It's a globally patented technology. There was another caller that was going to call in.
Well, we do have another caller. We need to bring her on.
Oh, great.
We're running out of a little time here to bring her on. Is it her female? Okay. You're on, caller. State your name. Bridget?
Bridget?
Okay. Well, I hope Bridget is feeling well. I don't know.
She's a PhD. Her husband fell off a tower.
Okay.
So Jonas Hubble was his name, and so she devoted a portion of her life to help families of members that have been fallen off towers or been seriously injured or died.
Hello?
Hi, Bridget.
We're here. Thank you so much, Bridget.
Yeah, hello.
Thank you.
Hey, I don't know what that was about. Hello, how are you?
You're here. You're live. Okay.
Hi.
Thank you so much, Bridget.
Yes, as Drew was saying. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes. And if you can just tell us a little bit more about your experience and what's happening here, I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. I became involved in the tower industry back in 2012. I started a nonprofit after my husband had passed away during an accident. And since then, I advocate for worker safety, and we take care of the families after somebody's injured or passes away.
Yes.
And so I've been doing that
since about 2012.
Okay. That's really a blessing to help the other families. I think that's a real noble cause and things that you're doing because it's so needed.
Thank you.
Yes.
So Bridget, it's my understanding that in doing that, you rented us at the FCC OSHA workshop in 2014, and have been getting more and more inquiries from the climbers that are around the antennas that talk about their headaches and nauseousness, and they had to come down the tower, and the lack of really anything substance as far as RF safety goes. Do I have that about right, or?
That's a good assessment, yes. I get calls and social media requests, emails from different workers saying that, they feel like they've been exposed to RF and they experience a wide variety of symptoms that many of the callers have already gone over. I notice mostly what they report to me is cognitive issues, headaches, dizziness, stomach issues, and when they go to the doctor, and a lot of them have been exposed for an extended period of time, but they either don't know what it is or they can't necessarily attribute it to one specific location.
Yes.
Because a lot of times if they have headaches, or it presents as a bunch of different type of symptoms. So when they go to the doctor, it's often mistaken for something other than what it actually is.
Yes, it does.
And
it is.
like for Chrissy and Stephen, when they went to the doctor several times, when they first contacted me, they'd say he was exposed to RF, and doctors and emergency room staff would kind of look at them like they had grown a second head.
Of course
because
they
didn't understand it. And by and large, I don't think the medical community understands it very much at all.
Well, we were able to pass a bill on another situation totally different. I don't see why we cannot collectively come together and get something as an awareness. And this is beyond awareness, but people need to be aware that this is happening.
Yes.
And not only just awareness, but, we have to make some changes on how things are going to proceed from this moment on. Is there a shield or something they could put around this that doesn't penetrate?
Actually, the existing rules and regulations are out there. They need to be adhered to.
Okay.
Our protocol, before you go to 123 Elm Street, if it's got an RF transmitting antenna, you can see where that RF footprint is. It goes from the face of the antenna sometimes out to 30 feet. You can see where the invisible pothole is so you don't fall on it. You can see where the RF hazard zone is.
Goodness.
So you don't have, if you don't have to work in it, then you can avoid it. And then you can, Stephen and Kyle had they known where those RF areas are. So RF is so easy to use. The workers don't have to know anything about RF. They need to know to stop at the stop sign.
Right.
That's how easy it is. And it's, again, funded by the existing regulatory framework. We pay for it as consumers. It's time, if I had one thing to say, I'd say, wake up, America. Let's get these workers protected. Let's care about our brothers and sisters. Let's have these companies that are well-intended live up to their social responsibility, and let's get this thing done.
Definitely. Well,
and the other thing is that the carriers are putting profit before people, which really just irritates me, because the thing that Drew and his partners over at RF Check have created is something that's incredibly useful and could protect a lot of lives. And I don't understand the stonewalling. I really don't. And it frustrates me to no end, because Chrissy was a volunteer of mine before any of this ever happened. And to see the changes in Stephen it just breaks my heart.
It does.
And every story does. And anything, and I don't understand why the telecommunications industry is trying to stall or whatever, but this isn't like you have to recreate the wheel. Drew and his team have something that could save people's lives.
Okay. And I know you're on the call here, and we don't have a lot of time, but if you could take 1 minute, what would you want to tell our listeners to walk away with? Something, I really feel that you have something in your spirit that you really need to get out. And if you can kind of get it in a nutshell, because we're almost out of time, we will be doing this again, and I'd love to have you back again.
Okay.
Take 1 minute.
guess what I would tell people, and I'm going to concentrate more on the occupational part. Anybody
Yes.
that's exposed to this type of thing,
Yes.
if you feel like you have symptoms from RF exposure, and don't question yourself, don't second guess yourself, don't stop trying to get medical attention just because a doctor may not understand. You look until you find somebody, but don't make yourself small, and don't make your illness insignificant.
Great.
By not seeking help that you know you need.
Yes, thank you. That was very powerful. And I hope everyone listening, take heed in this. And everybody knows someone sometimes that's working in this field and think that, this is my fault and what's happening with me, and I have this illness and nobody can diagnose it, especially autoimmune. They could definitely go under that, or idiopathic, because we don't know.
I guarantee you the CEOs of the major wireless carriers would never stand in front of those antennas. They'd never have one of their loved ones in front of those antennas. We need to fix this. This is just wrong.
So I want to thank you so much for your time. And again, we will have you back again. Thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time to be a guest on our show
problem.
today. Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget.
Thank you. And so now, Drew, it's your turn. You have about a minute or so. I want you to look into that camera.
I don't know
you
if I can talk for all of a minute.
I know. But, the camera right there, you're looking into a person's eyes. I want you to take your time, because I know you're going to go over a minute, and we have a couple more. But, look into their eyes and tell them what you want them to walk away with.
I think Bridget touched on it. I think
look at the client.
To get the CEOs of these corporations, you know what to do. It doesn't cost you anything. It's paid for by the consumer. Let's protect everybody. Let's protect these workers. We have worked day and night for 9 years to develop a technology to satisfy the worker, to get them the information to protect your financial interest, to protect the financial interests of the property owners, to protect the financial interests of the insurers. Everybody, it's a comprehensive protocol. It's easy to use. Your own management of every one of your companies. We've been to 6 wireless companies and tower companies. The own management says, we want this, we need it, when can we have it? It goes up into your legal departments, and like Bridget said, what happens up there, nobody knows, but it stalls, which contradicts your own people that say, hey, we need this. We can't handle this compliance. We don't know when workers are getting around our antennas. We don't know what the property owner's doing. We can't put in barriers. Several companies have asked for a safe harbor from the FCC on this issue, and the FCC says, we can't give you that. That would usurp our regulatory authority. Let's work together. Let's come together. Let's do the right thing for the right reason, not point any fingers, but let's get this thing solved. Yes. Amen.
Thank you so much. That was a nutshell, and I really appreciate that. And for those of you who are listening who have family who has been exposed, or are someone who is a worker and they have these symptoms, please do not hesitate to call Drew or myself. This is his specialty and what he's doing. I've had many patients who have been exposed, and we've been able to do things that their quality of life, which to me is very important, is to have a great quality of life. We all
deserve it.
We all have titles and so-called disease titles and whatever, but most important is your quality of life. I wouldn't be sitting here before you, especially with my long laundry list of health challenges. But my quality of life is great, considering I just had my 10th grandchild, and wow. So I'm very grateful, very grateful for that. But again, if you have symptoms that no one can seem to pinpoint what they are, you might want to check into RF. It's very important.
Go to the National Antenna Tower Safety Center. There's an info box. Email us. I'll get it. I'll call you. We'll talk. But again, let's get this thing solved. We need to work together, everybody, and come together. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Doctor, for having me here today.
Thank you. Each one teach one. Each one teach one. Pass this on. Please share. Please share this show, because you don't know who may see this show that can save their life. So please share the show. And again, I am so grateful to have Drew Fountain here
Thank
with
you.
me today. I am so grateful to have my producer, Jarvis, and I just saw you working so hard over there. So Drew is going to be in for a surprise once he see it. Those who are listening, radio, we are also at iHeartRadio. Those who are listening, please, you want to see it as well. You want to see what these towers look like. And, you know, they're placing so many on churches, and I don't want to just single out them, but they're everywhere.
They love the money. It's like a manna from heaven.
They're paid to have these towers
absolutely.
placed there.
And they're great. We need them. We
Yeah.
just need to protect the people working around them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what's happening to the people inside these buildings?
Well,
Okay.
the
You know
power
what?
dissipates a lot.
You
Well,
know
let's
what?
talk about that on the next one.
That's going to be the next show.
There you go.
Again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in to the show. And as I always end my show, which was in the media here, my logo was actually on Channel 7. So repeat after me. I am so grateful that I am a magnet
for
miracles.
Amen.
And miracles happen every day. And those of you know this is the beginning. You're going to go through this, and you're going to come through it. God bless you, and thank you for tuning in.
God bless. Amen. Thank you, Jesus.
Yes.
Join us every Wednesday live at 11 a.m. for NuWellness TV with Dr. Lee. Remember, healthy mind, healthy body. Time for NuWellness TV with Dr. Lee. Join your host, the accomplished Dr. Cherilyn Lee, as she welcomes the leading experts in health and well-being as they explore the advancements in natural health, physical fitness, nutrition, integrative medicine, and self-discovery. It's time for NuWellness TV with...
Good day, everyone, or evening. Again, I always want to thank everyone for tuning in and taking the time out of your busy schedule to tune in to NuWellness TV with yours truly. You know, today is a show that I'm seeing so much of this, and I'm sure a lot of people present to hospitals, and their doctors are telling them, we just don't know what's wrong with you. You have a line of symptoms, and nobody can figure it out. This show really is going to go into a lot of detail, and you're going to hear some testimonies of some incredible people that was seriously injured based on what's happening in our environment today. Because what's happening right now is very serious. It's very serious.